All right. Hey, good morning. This is not your Rise and Grind morning show. It's just a Rock Down Detroit Lions update, trying to see if this internet's going to behave this morning. Of course, it doesn't look like it is just yet, but hopefully we'll get that fixed later today. Yesterday, we had a conversation about DCs and OCs, who's going to make the best fit for the Detroit Lions as they move forward. I mentioned that Terrell Williams was going to be moving on to New England if Dan Campbell didn't wrap it up quickly. And from what we're hearing this morning, just in the last 15 minutes or so, is that Terrell Williams is, in fact, moving on to New England to be the defensive coordinator for Mike Vrabel. So let me bring in Ari here. According to Ari's Twitter post here, about 27 minutes ago now, the Lions coaching staff is getting picked apart. Offensive coordinator Ben Johnson is bound for Chicago. Defensive coordinator Aaron Glenn is now on track to join the Jets, and defensive line coach Terrell Williams is heading to New England. Johnson and Glenn may also take assistance with them, leaving Dan Campbell, well, with absolutely nothing, to be honest with you. We still have Scotty, right? Still have Scotty Montgomery. So far, we still have Hank Fraley, but the word is he's on the move to Chicago. No one's really talking about that a whole lot just yet, but all signs are pointing to this is going to be a brand new staff in 2025. Good, bad, indifferent thoughts, you let me know in the chat, in the comments, if you feel like this is going to be a rough season ahead. It looks like we've got a rough stream right now, but we'll do our best. I don't plan on being on too long, so I'm not real thrilled with this, right? I mean, I think Terrell Williams was a big key factor as to why Aaron Glenn was able to have the success that he was able. I'm not taking anything away from Aaron Glenn. I think it was just a very important piece that Dan Campbell and Brad Holmes added to that staff and brought a wealth of knowledge. I mean, 20 years of being a defensive line coach at all different, levels through collegiate and NFL. And I think that when you lose that many players, you have to get funny, right? I mean, you have to find a way to win. You have to, there's got to be an alternative method to either rushing the passer or, figuring out a way to contain or blitzing from different angles, manufacturing pressure. And that requires some very intelligent defensive line coaches and defensive coordinators. I mean, and positional coaches, all of them. Calvin Shepard is still in-house so far. Scotty Montgomery is still in-house so far. But I think that those could be the last two standing when this is all done. Haven't heard anything on Mark Brunell. I hope that, that doesn't happen here in the coming days. But again, he mentioned that he would follow Ben Johnson to Jacksonville because Vegas was too far, but Chicago's just down the road. So there's still a possibility that he could disappear. Now, I did see that Ben Johnson was looking at some other names for quarterbacks coach and special teams coordinator, but right now the door is wide open, and I think that we're going to be left with a brand new squad of coaches here in 2025. And I can't say that I'm disappointed, to that end, that we're going to have new faces and new ideas. I think new ideas are great. I just feel that, I didn't even switch back here. Hold on, my bad. I think new ideas are great. I think it's right for the team to find a new path and a new method to winning football games. And that's what they're going to have to do here in 2025. Let me open up the chat and see what you guys are saying. Well, that's weird. Chat disappeared. God, I love internet, man. Technology. So fun some days. Here it is. Still not there. Looks like I'm just frozen. All right. So anyway, that's your news update for today so far. Terrell Williams is headed to New England. Bucky says, no way, dude. Trace says, I'm sure that Dan and Brad are already on top of it. I would hope so. But you remember when I said that it's kind of weird that these guys are not interviewing, at least that we know of, right? They're not interviewing. While these guys are out taking, opportunities and getting interviews with other teams, that these guys aren't interviewing. Now, later on today, hopefully when the internet gets fixed, I am going to come back and I want to address this whole interview process. I know there's been a lot of stuff going on Twitter and everywhere else where, there's comments like people like, well, maybe they've only been following football for 5 seconds because they don't understand how this works, the interview process. We all understand how it works. doesn't make it right. Doesn't make it fair to the other, 32 teams or the other 31 teams in the NFL. It's not just because we're finally losing coaches that, we didn't see this coming. We did see it coming. It's just there should be change, right? I mean, the change is always good. And I think that if you can change a few things that are for the better good of all teams, why wouldn't you? And we'll talk about that later on today, again, assuming we can get this internet fixed up. Christopher Cunningham says Ben Johnson hosed us. And Casey Webb says, I'd rather lose secondary coaches versus my head coach. Knowing Brad, he's going to have the Lions ready. I hope so. Attila says, I think we needed to upgrade our coordinators. They could only take us so far. The Lions want to make it to and win a Super Bowl. Yeah. I mean, I think that Ben's great. There's a lot of, chatter on the back end of this where a lot of Lions fans are saying, hey, good luck in Chicago. I mean, it's a dumpster fire. There's a lot going on in Chicago that hasn't gone right. But when you start to add pieces like Ben Johnson and other pieces follow, it'll be interesting to see who follows, right? Who comes to work with Ben Johnson. And look, I wish him nothing but the best, just not on 2 Sundays or Mondays, that we go up against him. I do think he's going to have an uphill battle. I think that Caleb Williams is going to be, and I don't think that whoever he assembles over there in Chicago is going to be able to fix anything until Ryan Poles is out of there. But that's just my personal opinion. They could surprise the hell out of us this year. We'll see. Andrew Isham says, who is Terrell Williams? How do you not know who Terrell Williams is? He's like a legendary defensive line coach. Lions defensive line coach this last season. Bucky says, somebody talked me off the ledge. This is turning into a nightmare. We expected it. I mean, that's why I said yesterday that the dude was gone. If Dan wasn't and Brad wasn't going to make him a defensive coordinator, he's gone. I mean, now he's getting his shot in New England. He's going to go back and work under Mike Vrabel. It is what it is. Why wouldn't he stay in Detroit? And that's the other question. Yesterday we had a lot of mailbag come in, a lot of questions, a lot of hurt feelings, and people thinking that we're just going to waste the opportunity of Jahmyr Gibbs and Amon-Ra St. Brown and Jamison Williams and Aiden Hutchinson because it's looking to be eerily similar to what happened, with Barry Sanders' career and Calvin Johnson's career. And what I will say is this: we're a bit early, right? We're a bit early on that. Give it another 5 or 6 seasons. If we haven't accomplished what they've set out to accomplish by then I think the writing's on the wall. Once they get through their next contract, if we haven't accomplished a Super Bowl by then yeah, I think you kind of are wasting their careers. But it's just the way the NFL goes. Calvin and Barry did everything that they could in the NFL. They reached the highest of the highest mountaintops. They just never got to the Super Bowl. They never got to the other side. So anyway, we'll be back at it this afternoon, hopefully. Spectrum's on the way, but I can see that this stream is really struggling, so I'm not going to bother everybody with a bunch of glitchy images this morning. I'm sure funny faces and everything you guys are having fun with, but you guys will join me this afternoon. We'll talk about everything that's going on today, or we'll do it tonight, and we'll wrap everything up. We're going to try to do a season wrap-up here sometime this week with some other people in the industry and get all of their takes on what's going on. But this one hurts, man. This is a big one. Honestly, I was more concerned about losing Terrell Williams than I was, Aaron Glenn. I thought that it was like an easy 1-2 here. One's out, the second one comes in. Terrell Williams is in the saddle, but that didn't happen. Now, the other side of this, too, is Aaron Glenn left the Jets. He left the Jets without a deal. Him and Lance Newmark. So did it come down last night that Williams is leaving and Aaron Glenn's coming back? I don't know. I don't think there's any validity to that just yet. But we'll find out, I'm sure, today. I'm expecting a deal probably to be done at some point today for Aaron Glenn and whoever he brings with him or whoever joins, the Jets organization. That's a whole nother ball of wax that we haven't even looked at yet. We've got Ben Johnson we're dealing with. We haven't even dealt with another head coach yet, and that's going to be the issue. We could get picked apart. We could get picked clean, and that's, I guess that's the cost of being good in the NFL. We're just going to have to deal with it. So, One major pain. You said you sent an email too. So 2 people said they sent emails. And I'll go through it today. Make sure it didn't go to spam. Usually I get everybody's emails. Just send it in. Resend it. I'll make sure it doesn't go to spam. So anyway, we'll be back later on today. Terrell Williams, he's out. He's on his way to New England. Ben Johnson, he's been gone. He was gone before Saturday. Aaron Glenn, news is he left the Jets without a deal, but a deal was offered. Oh, it's going to get worse before it gets better. But I promise you, we're going to be okay in 2025. We'll be back. We'll be back in the playoffs. We'll be fighting for a Super Bowl. Don't worry. Dan Campbell, Brad Holmes, they know what they're doing. They started this, right? I'll leave you with this. They started this from nothing. They literally had nothing. They built this from the ground up. They made some changes each and every season. Anthony Lynn turned into Dan Campbell, then Ben Johnson. And among other positional coaches that were changed out throughout, Aubrey Pleasant to Deshae Townsend. So there's been a lot of moves. There's been plenty of moves. These guys know what they're doing. They're going to find good people, and good people want to come to Detroit. How do we know that the next pair of coordinators that we get are not way better than what we've already experienced? We don't know that yet. Hopefully, that's the case, and I expect that to happen. College ranks, there's some amazing coaches in the college ranks. Amazing. Do you think that they dip that low and go to the college ranks to find their next defensive coordinator or offensive coordinator? There's a possibility. But I think that they're going to try to stick with guys that have played in the league. I really do. I think that that's something that they started, when they assembled the first team of coordinators and coaches, and I think that they're going to follow through with that. Maybe they don't. Maybe they break the mold this year, and they just go and reach for, the best possible coordinators that are available. There's one guy that came to mind last night, and then when I looked at his contract, I'm like, yeah, no. The Lions aren't going to pay a coordinator $13+ million a year to be a coordinator, because that's what he's making. But we'll talk about him anyway a little bit later on tonight. You guys have a wonderful morning. Hopefully, Rise and Grind Morning Show is back in the morning. I just got to deal with all this internet stuff, and we'll get it put together. So we'll see you guys back here later on tonight. Take care.